Hey guys, welcome to Smack Talk Wrestling Reviews. I am your host Boise, and this is NXT UK Double Bill Review. That's right. So we have the UK Women's Tournament continuing. We'll find out in this review who's in the final two. We'll see super heavyweights collide, which is always fun, and we'll see what's going on with the NXT Tag Team division. With all that said and done, let's hit the music. So the first episode of this week, we kicked off with a NXT Women's Tournament match, and this was Xavier Brookside taking on Rhea Ripley. Now this, if you recognise Brookside, that's because she's the daughter of Robbie Brookside, a famous UK wrestler. His daughter very much going for her father's shoes. She's very, very good. I was very impressed with her selling. Rhea Ripley's aggressiveness is absolutely on point. Ripley, who is also quite well known now, she was in the Mae Young Classic last year. She was in it this year, where she made it to the last four. She's really become quite an aggressive, angry, heel kind of character, and it really does work for her. Her intro music and everything just comes across as an angry woman, and that's what you want to see when you come with a heel. She's definitely got like a Pete Dunne attitude towards her. I've got to say the high points for this whole match was Brookside selling was very, very good, and her counters in the corner of the ring. It looked like Ripley was going to get a clean, dominant match, but she wasn't. I gotta say, Brookside really gave her a push for it, and I'm very, very impressed. I can't wait to see what more she can bring to the NXT Women's division. I think she's a shining star as a young talent, only 18 as well. Bloody hell, she is very, very talented for an 18-year-old. And the only downside to the whole match was the slow build-up at the start. It really picked up its pace by the last quarter of the match, but it was just really slow at the start. But everything between it was really well put together. Ripley did get the win, obviously, but it was a really good outing for Brookside. So I'm going to give this match a 6 out of 10. Good introduction to Brookside. She comes across like a great little babyface, and Ripley, her introduction to NXT Women's Division, NXT UK Women's Division, she comes across as a absolute dangerous heel. So yeah, brilliant. Next up, we had Jack Starz versus Eddie Dennis, and Eddie was obviously the heel. He told Ashton Smith last week to watch this match, just learn something, and it was that typical kind of heel. He was cocky at the start. He was taking the mick out of Starz' size, obviously, because Eddie is like 6'5". It's ridiculous. Just tapping Starz on his head, really taking that. It really looked like Starz could get a shock victory, but obviously this is great selling from Eddie. I really like that. And Starz' selling as well was really good. For someone who's, I think, first time on NXT UK, I'm not sure if he's signed or if he's just a local talent, but I was quite impressed. I really did think that was quite good. Dennis did actually get the win by the end, which, no surprise, Eddie they're building him up to be one of the big heels on the company, and yeah, it wasn't as clean as Eddie wanted it to show Ashton Smith, and there was a bit of an interview afterwards where Ashton went, "Oh yeah, I definitely learned something from this." I'm going to give this match a 5 out of 10. It's still introductions to Eddie, because he's only recently joined NXT UK, but saying that, most people have. So yeah, a 5 out of 10 I think is a fair score for this match. The next match we got was Mark Andrews versus the Wild Boar. We haven't seen the Wild Boar since he took on Leggero, and this was a really kind of good little match here. It was more of a reintroduction to the Wild Boar for a lot of fans, because he hasn't been on TV for a while. And Mark Andrews is a great babyface. I think he's well liked in the NXT UK universe. I think we all kind of go, yeah, Mark Andrews is awesome. His high flying skills, again, just very impressive. This lad has absolute ability, and sometimes you look at it and go, what the hell? Gravity exists around him? Probably not. He's arm drags. I've got to say, like, Mark Andrews has one of the nicest arm drags I have seen. out of the superstar. I know it sounds like nothing, but sometimes you see a superstar like on the main roster on WWE, like SmackDown and Raw, and you see him do an arm drag. You go, that's quite rusty. It doesn't look as smooth. Andrew's drags just look so good, and I'm like, wow, that's quite impressive. I like that. The Boar's heavy striking, I've got to give him. They actually allowed the Wild Boar to get a little bit more offensive in this match, and he showed why he's quite. His German suplexes looked very crisp. His heavy-handed strikes as well looks very, very good. But this was a very tight match. Mark Andrews did get the win, which makes sense. He's one of the biggest names on the NXT UK brand right now, and the Wild Boar has only been on TV once before. So I'm going to give this a match a 6 out of 10, but it's worth it just to see Mark Andrews' high fly skills. The next match we got was Isla Dawn versus Toni Storm. This is also an NXT UK Women's Tournament match. This was a very, very, very good match, I've got to say. Dawn, who came out guns blazing. You're taking on the woman who's just won the Mae Young Classic. By this point, when they taped it, obviously she hadn't won it, but Toni Storm is NXT. She is the biggest name on the NXT UK brand right now for the women's division. I'd say she's probably the third biggest name on the whole brand altogether. But yeah, Dawn did exactly what you need to do when you're taking on a competitor like Toni Storm. You go out there and you just give them absolutely everything, and that's what she did at the start of this match. There wasn't any. It slowed down in the middle. At the start, it was really fast paced, which I really liked. It slowed down to really get Toni back into the match. Then Toni started really controlling the match after that, which makes sense. Toni's selling is absolutely on point here. I think she could easily go up to the main roster anytime. That's how good she is. She's that good. She's only like 22 or something like that. She's very young. Again, one of big names and still very young. And that just shows you what the NXT UK division's all about. It's young talent showing exactly how good they are. And this is really what they're doing here. I've got to say, Dawn just really impressed me. She controlled the majority of this match. And that's the thing. Even if you're not going to win the match, if you go out and still look very impressive, that was good. Toni did get it with the Stormbreaker. Awesome finish, I do love that. And after the match, Toni Storm and Dawn did shake hands, showing Toni is the big baby face of the women's division. I was, like I said, I was really impressed with this. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Worth checking out, guys. Probably the match of... This could have been the match of the night if Leggero and Devlin wasn't as good. And this moved us on to our main event, which was Ligero versus Devlin, and this was an absolutely brilliant match. I'm really proud to have Ligero represent us here in Yorkshire. He's a brilliant man. He's awesome. I absolutely love a lucha guy coming from Leeds, my town, and just representing. And he is good. He's very, very good. Devlin just absolutely... They go on about how good Devlin is at strikes. And that is true. Grappling and strikes, he's very good. But when he wants to do high flies, he's really good at high flying. Leggero is an all-rounder, I think. I don't think it's just a high flyer. I think he could do grappling, striking, everything. He's really good at most things. And his counters against Devlin. Both men, I've got to say, they did more reversals, more counters than I've seen since 2K16. It was just like, this is ridiculous, this is awesome, this is how good it should be. And that's how it was. It was like both men countering each other, and you can tell they've worked together and they have that chemistry, and that's what we got. This is exactly what you want to see from both men. Devlin's countering the high fly moves were just mental. Leggero's countering of the grapples were just brilliant, and the hard strikes from Devlin was just proving why he's one of the best strikers in NXT UK right now. But yeah, Devlin did get the victory. It was a hard fought victory. He had to really go all out to get Leggero to pin him. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Worth watching. Absolutely fun, guys. It's just, yeah. So that was the first episode of this week. Let's look at the next. So on the next episode of NXT UK, we had the start-off match was another UK Women's Tournament match, and it was Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley. This was for a spot in the finals. this was a good kickoff match. This great start to the show. Dakota Kai's kicking strikes. She is Team Kick. She is Team Kick, and she just shows how good she is. I gotta give Rhea Ripley her selling. She really sold well. She didn't get to show that too much in her first match, but in this one she did, which was nice to see. She's got an all-rounder kind of character. Her aggressiveness and her attitude just comes across brilliantly in this match. Dakota Kai is obviously a great babyface. I think, let's be honest, Dakota Kai and Toni Storm are the two big names for the babyface role in the women's division. So yeah, Rhea Ripley beating Dakota Kai was a big victory for her. I think it's probably her biggest victory so far in the NXT women's, NXT UK women's division. The fast start was exactly what you want to see. I can't praise it enough. I'm going to give this match a 7 out of 10. It's definitely worth checking out, guys. The whole NXT UK women's tournament has been brilliant put together. So again, WWE just know what they're doing when it comes to tournaments. That's always great. Next up, we had a tag team match where we saw Flash Morgan Webster teaming up with his tag team partner Mark Andrews, which always makes me happy because I'm a Mark Andrews fan. And he was taking on Saxon, Huxley and Joseph Connor. This was a really good little divided little match. You've got the big guys in Huxley and Connor. You've got the high flyers of Morgan and Andrews. It just shows you how good NXT UK is. You got that great mix between the two types. I've got to say, the build up to Flash Morgan Webster's tagging was brilliant. Andrews selling throughout the whole match. Saxon and Connors really controlled the majority of the start of this match, which shows you Andrews could counter really well, and his countering was fantastic when he could get, but his selling was absolutely brilliant. Flash Morgan Webster's counters, when he finally got into the ring, the crowd just went mental. The doubles, I can't remember what it's called now, but both Andrews and Morgan flew up in the air, turned in the air, pancake on Saxon. Saxon's biggest mistake was not targeting Connor when he should have. That lost him the match. I mean, after the match, Connor was so annoyed, he beat the crap out of his tag team partner. With that happening, I had to give it a bumper score because you saw a great match. You saw a heel team fall apart as well, which is, it's early days in the NXT, but I think it's the first team to kind of fall apart on TV like that. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Very good match. Andrews is awesome. Morgan is awesome, so can't complain. Next up, we had the battle of the super heavyweights, and this was a good match. If you want to just see two Goliaths collide, you just got in this. It was David Mastiff versus Tyson TBird. Both men who encountered each other last week just came back, and this was absolutely destructive. If you want to see high flying, you won't see too much. Yes, Mastiff did get off his feet a few times, and T-Bone did as well, but it wasn't like what you get with guys like Andrews and stuff like that. This was heavy striking, heavy submission moves. These were guys who were using their weight as an advantage, and it really did work. Mastiff did get the victory. They're really building Mastiff up as being the big super scary heavyweight, and I won't be surprised if he gets a title shot sooner rather than later. I'm going to give this match a 6 out of 10. It was entertaining to see just two big men going all out it, but Massive speed was the most impressive bit for me, and Tyson's heavy strikes as well just really got me enjoying this match. And this moves us on to the main event for the second episode of this week, and that was for the UK Women's Championship tournament, and it was Jinny versus Toni Storm. Toni Storm obviously being the big favourite, but I've got to give the match what it deserved. The start of the match, you expect a fast start like we got with Dakota Kai and Ripley, but we didn't. We got a much more slower pace grappling type of match, which was quite good. Jinny selling was fantastic in this. Toni Storm selling as well was fantastic. Both women, they've worked together before in Progress, so this was good to see that the chemistry just moved over to here on NXT UK, and it did. It really did. Jinny was absolutely brilliant. Her control of the match at the start. This is the thing, right? Everyone expects Toni Storm to be, you know, walking away with this division. But what WWE NXT UK have done, which is very smart, is made it so every match she doesn't come out starting strong. She comes out and she struggles, and then she builds her way up. And that's what you want to see, really. Someone who's, you know, we legitimately think Toni Storm's going to win all the time, but because of these type of slow starts where the heels or her opponent do get the upper hand at the start, that really makes you doubt it, and it goes, oh, actually, you know what? Toni could lose this. Her selling's really good, and that's what you do get from it. Jinny's counters for a lot of Toni Storm's attacks were very impressive. You could, like I said, you can tell these two have worked together in the past. Double headbutt. Bloody hell, both women tried to headbutt each other and just took each other out, which was great. But no, Stormbreaker did come into effect, and Toni Storm did get the big W, moving her on to the final take on Rhea Ripley, which we got an image of, which was awesome. It was just awesome. We had Ripley and Toni Storm just facing off against each other. Last panel of the night. It was brilliant. I'm going to give this match a 7 out of 10. Now, for both episodes, I kind of scored them both separately. So for the first episode of the week of NXT UK, I give it a 7 out of 10. I thought it was really good, entertaining. The NXT UK women's matches were the highlights. Leggero and Devlin was just brilliant. And this week's, then the second episode, I give it another 7 out of 10. Again, just really good matches. The heavyweight match against Mastiff and T-Bone was just impressive. And I just found the tag team match as well to be absolutely brilliant. But what was your favourite part of this week's episode of NXT UK? Leave it in the comments below, guys. If you do like our videos, please like, subscribe and press the bell to keep notified. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do. It's at SmackTalkYouTube. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Boise88. And I'll see you guys next time on Smack Talk Wrestling Reviews.